Hello everyone, it is Wizaldo or Wesley, and today I'm giving Boa its last chance. Now, if you don't know me, my name's Wesley. I'm playing at Nationals. Maybe the weekend this goes up. I am trying to get ahead on recording, but besides that, or that's besides the point, I am currently trying to figure out what deck I'm going to play. I'm got it down to 2 decks. I'm looking at Foxy as an off-meta surprise pick, and Boa as a deck that really fits my playstyle and is just a solid meta deck. Now, I have been pretty locked in on Foxy recently, but I wanted to give Boa one last chance before I kind of commit to a deck. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you my deck list and any changes I might make last minute. Alright, here is my deck list. It may look a little bit weird to you if you've seen a couple other deck lists, but I'm going to run through it and kind of explain as I go. Now, I have changed my camera setup depending on what the last video you saw of mine was, so I am going to be kind of changing the composition so I look more at the cards as I'm playing. You're going to see my side profile. Sorry if you don't like it. I'm trying to set up a better green screen effect, and this kind of helps with the warping that happens around my head with the green screen. Anyways, into the deck list now so I don't keep you waiting. So if you don't know, what Boa does is on your opponent's turn, if you play a character, draw a card. Really simple effect, but also if you have a Don attached to her, on you or your opponent's turn, once per turn, when one of your Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirate type characters with 5k base power or more is KO'd, your opponent adds a card from their hand or from their life to their hand. Really solid, especially into removal decks or decks that might have ways to KO your characters on your own turn, so that when you attach it on to your leader, you're going to be able to get that effect 2 turns in a row depending on how you play. The first card in this deck is going to be this 4 Sengoku. It lets you search for 7 Warlords of the Sea type characters, which is going to be a lot of the Boas in this deck and the Kumas. Really solid searcher, a really good turn 1 play, and probably the only turn 1 play at this point in this deck, unless you're going second, which I believe you do want to do in most of your matchups. But yeah, I have it at 4 because it's really important to find the Kumas in the mirror match. I know some decks have cut it out completely or cut it down to 3, but I think Boa is going to be pretty popular at Nats, so I'm going to hang on to this Kuma and want to see that in the mirror match. Next up, a little surprising, is 3 Pudding. Now, this is another one of the cards where I might change this. I might want it at 4, honestly. I think Pudding isn't an insanely good card because it just resets your opponent's tempo, and tempo is so important in the higher level events that having 4 of this so I can draw it consistently every game might be really important. It's also a card that works really well with another card that I'll call out in the future parts of the deck list. But yeah, so sets your opponent back tempo wise and can really screw over the game plan if they've been fixing their hand. After that is 4 Boa Hancock. This is a blocker. It turns on your leader ability because it attaches it onto your leader on play. Also lets you stack your deck for Kumas if you Boa Hancock and then Kuma on your Tendon turn. Really solid card. It also, because it has blocker, lets you force your opponent to take a life because of your leader ability. After that is 4 Hiyori. It's the 2k counter for the deck that isn't searchable. And then it has the on play, which is really good, to put a card from the top or bottom of your life to your hand and then add a card to the top of your life face down. So it's going to be mainly done with this Gorgon Sisters, which means you can play Gorgon Sisters for essentially free. Gorgon Sisters is usually a 6 down cost character, so cheating this out on your first or second turn is going to be really strong. After that is Marguerite. Marguerite is a searcher. Look at top 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal 1 Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirate type card and add it to your hand, then place the rest to the bottom of your deck and trash 1 from your hand. So it is hand neutral, but if you do play it on your opponent's turn, it's hand positive, so you still draw +1, and that's one of the reasons why it has that trash 1 card at the end. But really solid way to fix your hand if you're running low on counter. I have it at 3 because you're going to want to see these triggers a lot. Next up is Ran. Ran is a really good way to get your leader ability online. It's got a good trigger. It's a 1k counter. Just a solid character to have in the deck to fill it out. Next up is Rindo. Rindo I have as a 2 of. Rindo is not the greatest card in this deck, and it's something that I think could be even cut down to none. I wouldn't cut it down to 1 because I don't really believe in 1-ofs in my deck building philosophy, but it has the on KO, add 1 card from the top of your deck, your life cards, and then take 1 damage. So it basically means that on KO you have a chance of triggering out something. Solid card. I really like it because it's really good into certain matchups like Emu when your board's getting cleared, if you're not attaching Don to your leader, and like things like Blue Purple Luffy, anything where you're going to get swung into your board to clear it. It's also just another trigger to make the deck a little bit more consistent on those triggers. And then after that is Kuma. If you don't know Kuma, the most expensive card in the game, I highly recommend not playing this deck at a competitive level if you don't have these Kumas. If you do want to play it, there's more alternatives coming out next set in EBO4 and OP14. You might want to wait until then, honestly. Wesley. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. If you do really want to play this deck and don't want to shell out the money for the Kumas, maybe you can work towards it with trades. But what the Kuma does is on play, trash one card from your hand and heal a life, and then Kuma gets +2 cost until the end of your opponent's next turn, and on KO it also heals a life as long as it's on your opponent's turn. After that is the next 2k, the Gorgon Sisters. What the Gorgon Sisters does is you can reveal 3 cards with Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirates from your hand, and then give 1 Don to all of your leaders and characters, which is really strong. It really bumps up the aggro of this deck and is a really good way to go for game. After that, the final 2k of the deck to round out the deck at 12 2ks is Shakiyaku. Shakiyaku has this trigger that a lot of the other cards have to play it out, and then if your opponent has 3 or less life cards, draw 2 and trash 2 from your hand. So solid body and a really good 2k. It's searchable as well off of the Marguerite, so just a solid 2k to have in the deck. After that is Silver's Rayleigh. Rayleigh is going to be a great way to kind of control the opponent's board. What it does is if your leader is multicolored and your opponent is 3 or less life, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 7k base power or less. And the trigger says activate this character's on play, or activate this card's on play, sorry. Good way to kind of clear your opponent's board if you're having issues with their aggro. So a good card to see in the aggro matchups. Maybe something you might want to even mulligan for. Finally, to round out the characters, the boss monster of the deck is this Boa Hancock. It essentially just says your opponent takes a life to their hand and you add a life from the top of your deck to your life pile. Really solid card. It is the main way you're going to end the game with one of the future cards I'll call out. It has a really solid trigger that can trigger out this Rayleigh, and it's a really good boss monster to end out the game. Typically the turn after, or you play this, or the one after that, so within 2 turns of playing this you'll end the game or lose the game. So that is something you might want to consider when playing this deck. Now onto events. You're going to run 3 Slave Arrow, and I know 3 seems like a lot, especially when there aren't a lot of targets for this deck for it. Most people think that only Hiyori is a good target for it, and maybe Marguerite if you're really pressed for counter. But I want to call out a separate target that I think is even better than Marguerite in Pudding. Pudding is a really solid card for setting your opponent back, especially if they're ahead and you're having to play defensively. So Slave Arrowing your Pudding is one of the reasons that I actually bumped Pudding up to 3, and Pudding being a really good card to play multiple times really increases the likelihood that you're going to want to see multiple of it. After that, you're going to run 2 Perfume Femur. At 2, you do really have to grab it if you ever search for it, because you're going to need to see it to end the game in a couple of matchups. So having it at 2 might not be a great idea, but it is a really good card. However, you're only going to ever need to see 1 during a game, maybe 2, but if you need to see 2, you're pretty much guaranteed to be behind, or you're guaranteed to be able to end the game even without it. Typically it makes one of your leader or character cards unblockable and gives it +2k power as long as they have the 7 Warlords of the Sea type, and it has a trigger of draw 1 card. To finish out the deck list, you're going to have You'll Frighten Me. It is a counter card. If you have 2 or less life cards, up to one of your opponent's active characters cannot attack during this turn. It also has a trigger to play out a 6k power or less with a trigger from your hand. Really solid card for playing defensively, especially if you're kind of just trying to slow down your opponent. And then the trigger is really also nice to see out of life to play out one of your Gorgon Sisters, maybe a Rindo. Rindo is another card that you're going to want to play out for free typically, or your Ran or Marguerite, even your Rayleigh and Shakiyaku if you really need to. Anyways, that's kind of the deck list. I've kind of explained how it plays as I have went through. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments at this point. And if you like the list, please give the video a like. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Anyways, I'm going to play the deck a bit and kind of talk about my plans as I go. Alright, we're playing into Zoro Sanji. Not really what I expected while I was playing ranked, but I'm definitely going to go second into this matchup. I see a Hiyori in my opening hand, but nothing I can really play off of it. However, I could see potentially something on my draw 1, my first turn draw. And because I also see a Pudding and my opponent I see 2 Puddings, wow, and my opponent is going to really want to draw a lot of cards, I think this is worth it. I'm going to take the bottom life, and then I think it's worth throwing the Shaki onto the top of the life. I know that doesn't feel like a great play, but if my opponent does swing this turn, they are going to give me a 5k body, which is going to help me control their board. And if they don't swing, then I protect my life. All right, and they're going to draw a bunch of cards. These Puddings are looking really nice right now. Yeah, and they don't swing here actually, which is really nice for me. I unfortunately don't have enough Don to Rindo. However, I can just swing into the Vivi twice, which is not a bad idea because Vivi is the main way that this deck likes to draw a bunch of cards. I'm kind of inclined to swing into it with the Hiyori because I don't have too many plays, and getting cards out of my opponent's hand early is a pretty solid plan. Yeah, and if I know they only have 2Ks now, or like really good 1Ks. And if I can set them behind at this point in the game, I'd be golden. Granted, if they do VV here or play something that draws them cards, the pudding is a really good target. Unfortunately, I probably should have hung on to the Hiyori to play the Rindo out, but I had no way of knowing that I was going to get it. So I don't think that was the worst play, though it definitely could have been better. Maybe I should have mulliganed the hand. I do have right here my Boa deck. It's kind of hard to see with the green screen. I'm definitely going to let this go. All right. I do see a pretty good play here with the Boa. However, I do think Rindo is going to get me a little bit more aggro than the Boa would. And that might seem like a nonsensical play, but my opponent is lower than me cards in hand wise, and they're going to be drawing more with the Cavendish. So having a body that is going to be swingable into the Cavendish along with my leader is going to be a pretty solid plan. All right, I know I'm not going to get the effect of the Shocky here, but I do want to take this and play the trigger out. I'll draw a card, and I see a Gorgon Sisters. Now, I do have the option of just playing out the Gorgon Sisters here, but now that they have this 7k Luffy out on the field, I definitely want to consider just blocking the next few attacks with my Boa and playing really defensively. All right, they're going to swing 7 at me and restand, and then probably swing an even bigger swing at me. So I'm going to 1k with a pudding and 2k with the Shocky to get out of this, because I will most likely take the like 9k swing that they'll send at me with the Cavendish. Yeah. Take this, and nice. I trigger out a Gorgon Sisters. That's like the best play I probably could have gotten. At this point, I definitely want a Boa. So I'll start with searching first in case I see anything better. Unfortunately, I don't really think I do. I will grab the Slave Arrow maybe. Yeah, just in case I need to trigger or need to play really defensive, and I can always take the Shocky Yaku back to my hand. Then I'll deploy this Boa. I'll arrange in a way that gets me to draw into the Kuma, and then if I heal, then I'll put the Marguerite on top. So if they clear my Rindo, actually I'll put the Marguerite on top, because if they clear my Rindo, they'll probably do that first. Then I'll return the cards to deck and add it on there. And then here I can use the Gorgon Sisters to reveal the Slave Arrow that I already revealed, a You'll Frighten Me, and a 9-cost Boa. I'm going to put all of these to the end of my hand so that I know these are the cards that I showed my opponent already. And then I'm going to attach Don to everyone who can swing. All right, I'll start by trying to clear the Cavendish. I probably also want to be conscious of the fact that my opponent might have a pudding in their hand right now as well, and that would set me pretty far behind. All right, and then I'll swing some 7s at my opponent. I have 3 7s coming at them, and I don't have enough Don to pudding, unfortunately. However, I'll definitely get some cards out of their hand with these swings. I can play really defensively with what I have, which is good for me, although this coming turn I could get puddinged and get screwed over. They probably let themselves fall down to 2 here because I'm at 2, and we are going to be at the similar or the same amount of tempo after that. I'll definitely block unless they rest my blocker in order to set them down to 1 life, and then I might actually be able to threaten game depending on what I see this coming turn. All right, they're going to Hody and probably go for game. I also unfortunately don't have a ton of counter, so they can swing 7, 7, and 7, and then an 8. I probably take the swing from the Zoro and Sanji, so I will no blocker and 2k, 1k. Then they're going to probably swing with their leader, take the life, swing with, I mean, they could swing with Hody and really screw me over here. But my plan right now is the only way I survive is if they swing a 7 at me, I take that, swing another 7 at me with the Luffy, although they'd have to bounce back their Hody, so we'll see what I can do. All right, they're going to attack me with Hody first. Kind of suspected what that was going to happen. I'll use this trigger, or I can counter out of the swing from the Zoro Sanji with it. So I'm not going to use the trigger because I can survive this coming turn if I do. So they'll swing a 7 at me, I'll counter out, and then they'll swing another 7 at me, and I will survive. Because you cannot take lethal damage from double attack. Not a lot of people realize that when they play the game. All right, and I'll take this. No trigger. I will drop, I don't know if I want to drop the Boa and then guarantee that they take this life, or try and free up some Don some other way. Trying to think. They have a lot of cards in hand, so I think swinging 7s is going to do more for me. I'll start with the Sengoku, see if I can search out anything that kind of secures me the game. I don't see anything. I could potentially play this Boa Hancock and then play really defensively, but they have another Hody in hand, so I think I just go for game. So I'll start with a 7 out life. I'm sorry about that barking if you can hear it. Then another 7. When they take that, then I can swing pretty aggressively. I'll start with a 7 from Boa. And I know they have a brick in hand. And then another 7 from Shocky. And hopefully they're bricked at this point, and that's game. So I think the other game plan I could have done was to try and keep up a couple of Don, and then leave up my Boa Hancock, so they're inclined to rest the Boa Hancock, and then a couple Don. And I could have You'll Frighten me and try and clear the Luffy, and Slave Arrow, keep the Don up for Slave Arrow, and You'll Frighten me after I clear the Luffy. Sorry if that wasn't clear. And then try and play defensively like that. Don't know if that was the greatest idea, but I'd get an extra 2k counter from the Shocky, so they'd have 2 8 swings, or like, yeah, 2 8 swings I think at most. And I'd have to keep up 3 or 4 Don. I think I could have cleared the Luffy maybe. They might be really inclined to let it go if I'm swinging into it. Or if I swing at life first and then clear the Luffy. But yeah, I think that was the only alternative play there. That was the only alternative play to ending the game. Anyways, I'm going to play another one and continue kind of climbing rank and keep going. Alright, we're going to be playing into a Reiju. Wow, some really interesting games. I promise I'm going to keep testing after this. They're going to go second, so I'm going to look for a turn 1 play and a really nice even curve. So I'm going to mulligan this, even though it might not be the greatest idea. I'm going to end here, and off of this Marguerite, I'll probably try to search for a Gorgon Sisters so I can put it into life with the Hiyori. Anyways, but I do promise I am playing more games on this after this video to try and figure out what I am playing at Nats. I know it's a little bit late to be kind of just in the middle of what I want to play, where I'm being really indecisive. All right, and they're going to search for the Ichiji, the best card in their deck. All right, I see a Rindo, and that's a really nice thing to put into life, probably in this matchup as well, because they'll probably clear it. Also, the only thing I could grab other than the Slave Arrow, although playing defensively in this matchup might be nice. I'm going to trash a You'll Frighten Me, just because my opponent's deck does have a decent amount of blockers in it, so I'm going to want to hang on to the Perfume Femur. All right, they're going to spin and see another Germa Kingdom, which is good for me. All right, and I am going to take here because I don't really have anything I want to get rid of. I'll use that and just draw the card. I know it might not seem like a great idea to not get the effect, but it does do me some favors. They're going to see another Porsche off of their Porsche and probably play out a bait. Oh, they're going to play out a Black Maria. Interesting. And they're going to spin. All right, they're going to grab a baby Ichiji. So getting this, I could just play the Rindo straight out here, which might not be a bad idea, especially because I'm doing decent as is, but I do want to be able to attach a Don to my leader. So I'm going to play the Hiyori and take my bottom life and add the Rindo to the top. Attach 1 to my leader and swing a6. My opponent's pretty low on cards in hand, so if I get 2Ks here, I don't really mind. I'm going to swing 3 6s. It would be in their best interest to try and clear multiple characters from my board, so I might swing a 6 and then a 7, especially because they're going to probably swing into my life next turn if I just leave 1 rested. The Shocky is a really good target for Slave Arrow, so I might leave that standing. Oh, and my opponent has disconnected. Just goes to show how strong this deck is, right? I will give you one more just to kind of test the deck out even more. All right, this is a really bad matchup. I'm definitely going to want to go second in it. I see turn 1 play into a turn 2 play, so I'm going to keep this, and hopefully I see a nice curve off of the Sengoku. If not, I can always just play the Rindo. This is a bad matchup. We're going to see how it plays. I don't really expect to see a ton of these Luffys at Nats because it's not a very skill expressive deck. All right, and we do see some Boas here. I'm going to grab the Boa because I don't really have any top end right now, and I'll attach 1 to my leader and pass. My opponent's going to want to probably leave 2 Don up here. It might be in my best interest to actually not play the Marguerite and just kind of swing wide to guarantee that I can screw my opponent over as much as possible. Because they'll probably like play a, what's her name? Lilith here. Oh no, they're just going to swing 8 at me. I'll take. No trigger, unfortunately, but I do see a nice play for next turn. So I'm going to do this. I'll play this, start placing on top. I'm going to want to draw into the Gorgon Sisters, but I could always Kuma if I don't take a life. So I'm going to put the Shocky on top, and hopefully I just defend my life. If not, I know I put a Pudding into life, and then I'll just swing a 6 here. Probably get a 2K, or they take, yeah, they are a 6 life leader, so they don't really have to worry about that first or second life. It's probably in my best interest to try and just stay really, really healthy in this matchup. All right, and I am gonna just set them down low here. Probably play a 4-cost, yeah, Kiku, and I just play a Kuma and trash a Marguerite, and now I have a Gorgon Sisters in life. And next turn I go to 8, I'll probably play the Ran and then just swing, especially if my opponent doesn't want to swing at my life here. They probably try and stay healthy, yeah. I don't really have anything they can clear. My goal is probably to just stay in the game a little bit longer. So once I start dropping my Boa Hancocks, I don't have to worry about my opponent burning all my life. All right, and I will counter out with the Rindo here. In this matchup, the Rindo's probably more of a 1k counter, though they do have this Nami that they could always clear it with. Their main focus is gonna be just burning my life. All right, and I absolutely want to take this. They're leaving 6 up, so they probably have a, what's her name in hand? Robin in hand to burn this life. Oh, Kuma, that's even better for me. I'll just Boa again and swing really, really tall. I'm gonna put the Shaki on top with the Marguerite under it, or with the Sengoku under it, because I'll probably take a life, draw the Shaki, and then draw the Sengoku for turn 1 and play the Boa. So I'll return like this and then give a Don to my leader. Now I have 3 swings this turn, so I will reveal a Boa, a Ran, and a Slave Arrow. And the reason I reveal the Ran is because I'm gonna just play it right after this, probably. All right, boom, boom, and boom. And then I will deploy the Ran and attach one to my Gorgon Sisters. That way I can swing a bunch of really decent swings into this matchup. My opponent probably falls down to 3 here. I feel like they might be pretty bricked at this point. I have a really nice wide board that I can go at them with. All right, and they're gonna go up to 7. See, it's a good thing I attached that extra Don to my Gorgon Sister, because right now I would not be able to swing at them. And getting a Nami out at this point is really good, although my opponent might not want to use it, just because they'll have to take a life if they do. And see, I do get them down to 3 life, which is good for me, because then I'll be able to start playing really aggressively. They're gonna Flame Split and rest my Boa blocker. That's pretty unfortunate, but I'm just gonna pass here. They do have a pretty tall swing coming at me, depending on what they play. So I do have to worry about that. If I could get some life out of their, into their hand, then dropping the pudding might be a good idea, but it's probably more in my interest to just play the Boa and stay healthy. If they swing at my Kuma, I just let it go, though it might be worth giving a 1k because it's easier to defend a 7k than it is my 5k life. All right, and I just let them take this. It makes them burn, and I can just defend the Boa after this, or I don't even have to necessarily. I think I do want to, but defending an 8 is pretty rough. They're gonna leave 8 up so that they can burn my life. I think I have to let this go in order to keep a decent amount of cards in hand. All right, I assume they swing 6. I'll counter out of that, and then I'll fall down to 2 life, put them to 1 life, and then I will leave a Don up for Slave Arrow, bouncing back something. All right, and I 2k out of this, and then we see the kid, yep. All right, I'll deploy this, gain a life, opponent takes the life to their hand. I will turn on my leader ability here, and then I think it might be in my best interest to try and clear the Kiku, just so my opponent has that many less swings next turn. And I want to keep a Don up for Slave Arrow to probably bounce back my Rand. So I'll start with a 5k at lead. And we'll just try and get some counter out of their hand. If they take here, I'll be solid. And then I'll just go a 7 at their Kuma, maybe? Yeah, I'll go 7 at their Kuma, just because they have been countering out these 1k swings. Yeah, and it's pretty good for me to get them low in hand, because next turn I will go for game. I'm like 99% certain that I can survive this turn, because I have I will end up having 10k counter in hand. So if I can't get out of some of these early swings, that'll be bad. I know I'll be able to get out of a 5 and a 6. I'm gonna assume that they're gonna swing a what's her name, Bonnie at me to get me low, especially seeing that they just trashed a Bonnie. They might be thinking about clearing my board though, so I'll give it 2k here. And now they're like, shoot, I can't kill. They might swing at my Ran. I wouldn't hate that, because it guarantees I put them at 0 life. All right, and so they have a 7k coming at me, a 9k, and a 10k, or 2 10ks. I'm gonna take this one. Unfortunately, it's not a trigger. If it was a trigger, I'd be confident that I could go for game. But I know I can counter out of the 9k, or the 10k, or 11k that's coming at me, or the 2 10ks that'll come at me. So they're definitely thinking about it right now, what they want to do. It's definitely in my best interest to just go for game next turn. I don't want to stall any longer. I will probably take this hit that they swing at me, depending on how they do it. All right, and I could counter out here. The worst case scenario is they swing an 11 at me after this. I have 9, 10, 11, 12 in hand already, and I can bounce the Ran back. So no trigger, unfortunately. I'm really fishing for these triggers to secure my game. Unfortunately, I'm betting now that the last life is actually going to be a trigger. No, it's not. I had a really low trigger. So I just have to hope that they don't have any counter in hand. I would really like it if they attach the Dom to their Bonnie, because that guarantees that they don't have a card in hand to counter with. Here, I think they realize that I can get out of it. So I'm going to give 2 2Ks and just go for game next turn. I assume they're going to trash a brick here. No, they're going to trash a 2K. Okay, that's pretty indicative that they have a lot of counter in hand. So if I assume that they have all 2Ks, they have 2, 4, and then a 3K. So 5, 9K counter in hand. I'll start with a 7K swing. Maybe it's a you'll frighten me, but no, it's not, yeah. And then I'll swing a 9K. That'll get me a ton of counter out of hand, especially if they have all 2Ks. After that, I can swing a 5 to guarantee. Oh, wow. Then yeah, I just go for game here, and that's game. So even in the worst matchup, this deck is still pretty good. I didn't even get to do the pudding tech where I just run a ton of puddings, but I'm really liking this deck. It feels pretty good, even when I don't see a ton of triggers out of life. Anyways, I'm going to go do the deck reflection and talk a little bit more about my deck. All right, here's that deck list one more time. I think this Slave Arrow is such a strong card that I'm definitely going to keep it in, even when I have to bounce back something like my Ran or my Shocky. I think putting at 3 feels really, really good. I saw it every game there, and it was a really threatening play most of the time. I would like a way to maybe see Perfume Femur at 3, but I think Rayleigh's a really good card. I know I didn't show it off, but in my testing, it's been really good. 3 Marguerite feels really good. 2 Rindo, that might change. We'll see, but I need the triggers in the deck to make it a little more consistent. So that's why they're in there, the 2 Rindos. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of just leave it here. Let me know what you think of the deck in the description. Like I said, I'm really always open to hearing feedback. Granted, I might not always implement it, and I don't want anyone to take offense to that. A lot of the decks I play around my play style, and the reason for that is because I have a certain way that I play, and I always play better when I play decks that fit that play style. I think this is something that a lot of people should keep in mind when they're actually playing these decks, is if you lean a certain way when you play certain card games, especially when you're a sort of casual, sort of competitive player like me, matching your playstyle to your deck is really, really important. Anyways, let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.